Hey there, Knicks fans. It's playoff time, and that means we're gearing up with the freshest hats and swag from Fanatics. We're buying our merch with Fan Cash since we bet with Fanatics Sportsbook, where you earn Fan Cash on your bets. Download the Fanatics Sportsbook app and start earning Fan Cash today. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents call 800-327-5050. New York residents call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
We're a live one, Johnny. We are a live one, my friend.
I am getting far too old for this shit. And I say that having earlier today, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Jeffrey Weber, my cardiologist here in Brooklyn, who somehow is keeping me alive with a cocktail of heart medication that I kind of wish I had seen him for my biannual checkup tomorrow, because I don't know that the EKG would have showed the same things tomorrow as it did earlier today. And on that note, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, presented by our great friends at Fanatics Sportsbook. DJ Zullo is with me here. DJ, we just watched a basketball game that we're going to talk about now. I want to preface it by saying it is only game one. There is a lot of series left to go, and we will honor the fact that there is a lot of series left to go. But for right now, if you are a Knicks fan that has waited a very long time to be on this sort of stage with this sort of spotlight, this has been 88 games in the making. In some ways, this has been 5 years in the making. In other ways, this has been 2 decades in the making. They arrived on the stage tonight, and somehow, and it might defy some explanation, although I'm really excited to pick your brain about some of the stuff that they did tonight. They came out with a win. And I guess, really, that does matter more than anything else, does it not?
Listen, we wondered openly, and I think rightfully, most Knicks fans, about this team's level of grit, toughness, especially compared to what this team was last year. And I think the Pistons series gave us a glimpse that this team might have a little more fight and wherewithal than we gave them credit for. And it was the Pistons, so maybe we all had a right to be a little skeptical about that. But God damn it, they were down 20 points to the best team in the NBA. And I know you were with me. It seemed like this team was going to let go of that rope. And who can blame us for assuming that would be the case, knowing what we know about how this team has faced and played against the Celtics team during the regular season. But based on, I think, some tactical reasons, which we'll get into, but also just some unwavering grit and determination, they kept at it and they kept shaving off the lead. And they ended up holding the Celtics team in the fourth quarter and overtime to 21 combined points. That's freaking ridiculous. And they deserve so much credit. And they were on fumes with 5 minutes to go.
Oh my God.
Quarter. Mikal Bridges, who we're going to talk a lot about,
yes,
played 52 minutes in this game and seemed to be getting stronger defensively as the game went on and made the game-winning play on defense. And that was as good a defensive performance over a 10-minute stretch as I've seen any Knick play in a big spot in my life. Credit to Mikal Bridges, credit to a lot of these Knicks, but credit to their fight and their wherewithal, which was under the microscope all year. And I think they've answered the bell. And you're right, there's a lot of games, and there's going to be so many ebbs and flows in this series. But they sent the opening salvo that they're not going anywhere. They didn't have that wherewithal in the regular season, but they have it now. And that's all that matters. And thank God they do.
Not maybe. it's likely at this point, it's a likely conclusion to draw that the 82 game stretch that, again, it sounds crazy to talk about a 51 win season in the way that we have talked about it. We're both logical guys. Benji Ritholtz, very logical, down to earth guy. All of us here at Knicks Film School, logical, down to earth. We're down the middle. We don't give in to hyperbole. All of us have openly admitted this has been a frustrating regular season, and it has been a frustrating regular season because we've watched this team and we watched them stumble over themselves, not as much due to what other teams were doing to them, but because of what they were doing to themselves and what they could not avoid doing to themselves. And we said, why? How is this not better? I can only draw the conclusion at this point that it was that stretch known as the regular season, that got them to the point where they were capable of playing the final. When were they down 20? I'll look it up right now, and I'm just going to cop to it. I'm like, anybody who wants to go clip it, feel free. They were down 20. I said the series is over. I said the series is over because the regular season, even with the win against Detroit, and maybe a little bit because of the win against Detroit, and how they needed to go 6 games, and the way that series could have gone 6 games in the other direction, if you really look at just it came down to a couple plays. I said that we will never get a 48-minute game in which this team could just be serious for the entire time, because you looked at that game in the middle of the third quarter when they were down by 20 points. And you said, yeah, they did some nice things. And yeah, they had some real tactical moves that they made right out of the gate. And yeah, some players were playing well. But my goodness, the Celtics were shooting sub 30% from 3. They were down by 20 despite that. And what conclusion could we draw other than the fact that this team this year just don't got it? And then something happened. And I don't know exactly what that something was. And I'm hoping you have the answer, because I just maybe it's just as simple as you said. Maybe it was just grit. Maybe it's as simple as team being like, you know what? We're not ready for this to be over yet.
They didn't divert from the plan. And it felt like at 75-55, like there would be a lot of reason for them to say, you know what, we tried this. Keep everything in front. Let's not switch. Let's not overhelp. We're down 20. Let's cats in foul trouble. We tried it. It's not how we play. It's not working. And they just kept with it. And you know what? The Celtics ended up shooting 15 of 60 from 3. 63s is an insane amount of threes taken. But if you go back and you watch these, and I obviously haven't had a chance to do that yet, I will. The Celtics threes that they took were not their standard 3-point value threes that they normally take when you're in rotation or Porzingis is popping open at the 3-point line, which we saw time and time again against the Knicks during the regular season. And this is how they play against most teams. But the Orlando Magic, to their credit, set the template about not overhelping, to switch everything, to, if you're not suppressing the threes, then make them tougher than their standard usual shot diet. And it was talked about all before this series that the Knicks don't have the personnel to do it. And yes, they don't have Orlando's personnel, but they still asked Karl-Anthony Towns to switch, and it wasn't perfect. And for some of that game,
it changed the game because he drew his third foul, and it changed the game in the first half.
Right. But it took Porzingis out of the game right off the bat. Now Porzingis leaves, and it speaks to like how valuable he is. Like not only him being on the floor, but him generating those clean open threes, like really makes this team go from like great to a super team. So you can, if you look at this template right now, you can go into game 2 and say, we can play the same way. And we can say, we're not going to give up those types of threes when we're in heavy rotation and they're just spraying the ball around and we're in the blender. We can prevent that.
So let's get some big ticket items out of the way, and then maybe we'll dig into some of the nitty gritty of how this game ended down the stretch, because it's game 1 of a series between 2 incredibly well-coached teams, 2 incredibly well-prepared teams, 2 veteran teams, 2 good teams. There's a lot to dig into here. I don't want to try to spend too much time on any one thing. I think the lead story of the game from an X's and O's perspective has to be what you just said, which is that the Knicks came out and essentially switched everything on the majority of possessions.
Mhm.
And they challenged the Celtics to beat that specific defense. And again, when Towns went out with his third foul, and when then the Hackimich came, and then we went all the way down the slippery slope into whatever is down on that valley, in the bottom of that valley. Oh, wait, I know it's down on the bottom of that valley. It's Preston Chua. And then all of a sudden we were down by 16 at the half. And you could say, all right, that was all a trickle-down effect from the switch everything, because it drew Cat the third foul and the whole thing. And that's why what you said just now is so smart, which is that the Knicks didn't deviate, and they could have deviated. And because they didn't deviate, that defense ended up paying massive dividends down the stretch of this game. The other thing you said, which is the other lead story of this game, and I'm not sure if you heard my preview pod with Fred, but we did our draft of the most important players in the series, and Fred Katz with the 4th overall pick took Kristaps Porzingis. And boy, does he look smart right now, because once Kristaps Porzingis went out of the game, it made that strategy, I would say, more tenable. But at the same time, there's so much other stuff we have to talk to. We haven't mentioned OG Anunoby's name yet.
Yeah.
29 points. Hello.
Incredible performance by OG.
Incredible performance. I haven't mentioned Jalen Brunson. I know he missed the shot at the end of regulation, but my God, those threes. We're going to get to all of it. But like, if Porzingis doesn't leave, obviously he puts more stress on you as a three-point shooter. But if you are truly switching everything, then it's really the stress he puts on you as if you have a small that is switched onto him on a post-up.
Right.
And like, look, he may be back for game 2. Honestly, at this point, I kind of hope he comes back. I'm going to regret those words, but like, I would love to get a chance to now beat the team at full health, because I wonder, would that actually change the Knicks' strategy? I don't know that it would. I don't think he would go out there and do this. No.
And listen, I know he was under the weather clearly, but he struggled. You know, it was Tatum basically the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 possessions. It was Tatum blow by, Tatum 3, Tatum foul on 3-point attempt, Tatum 3, and a Tatum 2. So Tatum was doing his job against Towns or Mitchell Robinson. Porzingis trying to take advantage in the post or on those dives, he struggled mightily finishing. So we don't know. And he struggled against Orlando as well. So this might not just be randomness against the Knicks. He might be going through it a little bit physically, to the point where it's not going to be a given that you're going to generate a clean, high value shot with Porzingis against Bridges or Hart or Brunson. So I think the strategy will remain the same. It does get a little bit tougher when it's Porzingis versus Horford, but the Knicks just have to live with that, because it's trade-offs. So if it's going to be Porzingis against you in a mismatch, making twos, it's not even in question whether or not you're okay with that versus the alternative Porzingis Tatum threes. So the strategy was very sound. The strategy made sense. And the fact that they didn't utilize this pretty much at all during the regular season, other than in spurts.
Other than here and there. Yeah.
Here and there. But to utilize it and then continue it despite some, mixed reviews, to stick with it, I think you got to give credit to the coach to do it.
Well,
and then to stick with it throughout the entire game. It changed the game and made that Celtics offense mortal. And a lot less than mortal, actually.
It was a lot less than mortal. Let's stick with the switching just for one more second, because the other thing that the switching yielded, this was not all on the switching, maybe not even most on the switching, but the Celtics did get 19 offensive rebounds in this game. And I think early on, you could point to maybe the switching being a culprit for that. In general, I thought the Celtics were just better on the boards. And that's just maybe as simple as hey guys, we got to clean that up.
Well, here's the thing. Knicks aren't rebounding well, and they didn't rebound well in the Detroit series. And I think a lot of that is going to be, unfortunately, fall on Cat. He was I think for 80% of the season, one of the best defensive rebounders in the entire sport.
Absolutely.
And he's fallen off a little bit, and he's just got to be better in that area, because you're right. It felt like, and we talked about it a bit on playback, where you have to win theoretically on the margins, and defensive rebounding being probably at the top of that list. So to win the game, despite giving up that many offensive rebounds, I think you dodged a bit of a bullet there.
I was convinced when Drew Holiday flew in. And look, Drew Holiday's a Hall of Fame player. He's an NBA champion. He's a gold medalist.
Corner crash. He's been doing that his whole career. It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. I was convinced when he got that, he kicked it out to Brown for the three that we were going to lose the game, but we didn't. So thank God for that. So something to look for. Let's talk about the offense. We're bouncing around a lot here. I'm just trying to hit the items as in the order that they should be hit. And we've failed to do that because we're talking for 16 minutes and we haven't talked about OG Anunoby yet. Look, do the numbers look spectacular? 29 points on 20 shots. Like, no, that's not like Steph Curry, Nikola Jokic level efficiency. OG Anunoby took 11 threes tonight and he made 6 of them. And he went 10 of 20 overall. He had 3 assists, which, again, doesn't sound like a lot. The Knicks comeback in the third quarter started when OG found Josh Hart for a wide open corner 3 that Josh Hart sunk. Derek White came back and made another 3. And I believe there was another OG assist somewhere down the line. I thought I wrote the note down, but I may have missed it. He had the big and one in overtime. That was a 40. Let's see if I could do I always forget the exact math. $42.5 million performance. That's the average annual value. It was worth every penny tonight and then some.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was not only the shooting. Listen, we talked about before the series, he's been the one guy that you're confident in terms of just getting the 3-point volume up. And to take 11 is huge. To obviously to make 6 even bigger. He was also a big factor in the Knicks transition game.
Can I read a note I wrote down? This is a really nuanced note. So I know you're really good at X's and O's. I don't know if your mind can comprehend this. Star, OG took the ball. Did you catch all that?
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah,
that was the defensive steal. The steal he had late in the fourth.
86-86. Finally tied the game. Yeah.
Huge play. And again, one of those defensive possessions where you've talked about it, where it's the Kawhi level ability to just say, yeah, this possession's mine.
Yeah.
And I'm going to blow it up and I'm not going to stop the possession. I'm going to take the possession. That was a clear example of that. He was fantastic, as I was about to say, in transition. The Knicks ended up scoring in the 86th percentile on a points per play in transition. That's a big number for the Knicks, who struggled against the Pistons finishing. That was they got out and ran, but they weren't good in doing so. So to get out and run against they didn't have the frequency. It didn't seem like the volume was high tonight, but they converted when they had the chance. And that you got to have one of those two things: either your super high volume or your super high efficiency. In the perfect world, obviously you're both, but they got some runouts. Josh Hart being a big factor there. I hope we can touch on his performance again, just being everywhere. But Anunoby, the two-way performance, we're just seeing more and more of him being like truly one of the elite two-way players in this league that has really shown like he has another level, not just within games, like as a player within seasons to get to when you look at him as a two-way player. Just a fantastic performance. Love the 3-point volume, obviously the defense, and then the transition, a complete game for OG.
As we transition to talking about Mikal Bridges, I want to, if you're playing at home, this is the drinking game portion of the show. I'm going to read a couple tweets from Zach Lowe. Chalk it up to shooting luck, but there was some of that. But the Knicks wings, especially Anunoby Bridges, were awesome, darting in and out of driving lanes when Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown attacked mismatches, then flying back out to shooters. There was a difference between flyby threes and clean catch and shoot threes. New York's 3-core wings made the Celtics think, made driving lanes appear, cluttered, and flew back to shooters on the catch. And yes, Boston missed a lot, so many that it became a game New York had to have, and they got it.
Yeah, that's so what he's basically talking about, and this is something we've talked about a few times this year, where if you're loaded up in the gap and then you're closing out, it's a one-way closeout. So you're early in help, then you can just one direction close out to the shooter versus late getting into help and then having to reverse course back to a shooter. That's when the technique gets off. That's when you're not settled into your closeout. So credit to Anunoby. I think Hart as well was big in that area too. It was you couldn't have drawn up, I think, a better defensive scheme from the coach, but it had to have been executed by the players. And it felt like, there was some attrition there offensively, especially Jalen Brunson, who was, again, tasked with a lot of switching, a lot of like wrestle matches with Al Horford, Porzingis when he was in the game. They asked a lot of everyone. And for the most part, on the defensive end, the Knicks shined through. Like this was again, I know where the narrative is going to be. Wow, the Celtics just had one of those like bad shooting nights. This is what they do once or twice a series.
Two things could be true.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can have a bad shooting night, and the team that defends you can actually do a good job defending you.
Listen, I thought it was a great defensive, especially first shot defense. I think if you look at the defense as a whole, you're going to quibble with the offensive rebounds that they allowed. So you have to factor that into the total defensive performance. But on the first shot, the Knicks couldn't have been better. Like they were great, save for some switch issues with Mitchell Robinson and Karl Towns, which we already documented.
Look, the Celtics should absolutely, let me be very clear about this, absolutely be back in their locker room being like, guys, we're fine. We shot 25% from three, right? They shot
15 of 60. Yeah, you do the math.
Yeah, 25% from three tonight. And this game was right there for us to win. We are fine. They should say that. If I was them, I would say that. The reason why I think the Knicks are justified in being optimistic is what we just talked about, which is that, yeah, the Celtics are getting up threes, but are they generating the highest quality looks that they do against the best or they do when their offense is at their best? And are they going down a road where they are going to at some point need to ask themselves, do we just keep taking this diet of threes, or do we more lean into we're going to hunt the mismatch inside the arc and trust that either we're going to be able to score or we're going to be able to draw the help that way and then kick it more out to three-point shooters. And putting everything else aside, I want to put them in the position to have to ask that question.
Right. Yeah. And that's a tough question for them to actually answer, because they don't want to do that, right? They don't want to agree. So that's where the way that Orlando defended them and now the Knicks, it's really putting, I think, some potential. Now, listen, Mazzulla could be at the point where it's not even going to matter. They're still going to play the same way. But you can't look at the way this game played out and say the Knicks didn't prevent them from getting the highest value threes. That, to me, is undeniable.
So a couple things, though. Issues potentially from New York. I know I'm going all over the place here, but it's just as it's coming, I'm bringing.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm
with you.
There's a bodies problem here. So again, this sort of defense, you're susceptible to Towns foul trouble, which we're going to talk about Karl-Anthony Towns game that he had in a minute, I promise. Mitchell Robinson, is this Hack and Mitch going to be a thing? And if it is a thing, I mean, is he playable? And if he's not playable, where do you go? We saw Tibbs push 2 buttons tonight. Neither of them worked that great.
Yeah.
Precious Achiuwa, I'm not sure. I don't think we need to say anything about Precious Achiuwa.
Well, here, 5 minutes, -7.
Is that bad? That feels bad.
That's pretty bad.
That's not good. And then small ball, which everybody's asking for 5 years. So those minutes, I don't think should be an indictment on the prospect of them playing small, essentially with OG at the 5. I want to go back and I want to look at that. In the moment, it was like, man, y'all are leaving some stuff out here, and this is not your best foot forward. And look, maybe it's because they haven't played it much all season. And if you want to criticize the coach for like, hey, they're not used to playing small ball because they haven't played small ball, that's fine. I'll give you that. Anyway, so just some potential issues that may prop up. But as far as, and the other thing, and this will be a transition to talk about Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson, did he play a perfect defensive game? No. But boy, could you ask much more of him than he gave you tonight?
It felt, there was a couple Tatum plays in the first half where he's just shooting over the top, and it felt like he's not even feeling him. But in that same regard, it's still like a 20-foot pull-up 2-pointer. So you're probably living with that. And it never felt like the Celtics got to this area where they were just relentlessly hunting him to the point where the Knicks have to surrender. Like it felt like they got him.
When they backed him down, he held up a lot.
He did. And that's probably his best strength as a defender, right? And there was a few times in the fourth quarter and overtime where, it was a lot of Towns and Brunson in the action. And it really felt like, wow, how do the Knicks defend out of this? But you do have so much backline support in that scenario that it didn't murder them, despite you would think you bring Brunson and Cat into the action, you're going to get a good shot out of that. Because the Knicks were switching it, it wasn't like they were walking into open threes. It was still, the Celtics still had to work for it. Even against Towns, they still had to work for it, even if they were getting good stuff out of it. It's not how they want to play. They will play this way, and they clearly will lean into it. The 3-point volume tells you that. But if they had their druthers, this would not be how they drew it up. They want to play like they played during the regular season, where they can just KP pick and pop, Tatum step into a 3 against drop, Tatum penetrate, get into the paint, drive, kick, get into rotation, swing, open 3. That's how they want to play. And that's how they did play. And they probably thought, you know what? The Knicks might have some adjustments, but they're pretty much going to have their base defense. I would love to know if the Celtics thought the Knicks were going to do this, play this way defensively. Because it felt like such a shock to me watching it, despite like all of us talking about like you have to utilize this. So I wonder if this did catch the Celtics off guard a little bit.
It might have.
And it might, obviously going into game 2 with some time here to figure it out. Maybe they have adjustments ready.
48 hours, but
right, not a huge amount of time.
Yeah,
but listen, they made the Celtics uncomfortable, and that leads into missed threes. It's not just the luck of the shooting gods. You have to play a part in that.
Let's talk about so the one other point that I wanted to make to counter Boston feeling great about themselves. We talked about the rebounding. I think the Knicks can rebound better. I think the Knicks will rebound better. Something we haven't talked about yet, and that's because it didn't end up being the issue that it seemed like it was going to be midway through the first half, is the turnovers. The Knicks ended up in this game actually only turning the ball over 13 times. It was very aggravating, the turnovers to start the game. They cleaned it up. Credit to them for that. Celtics actually turned the ball over more times. 2 things. Free throws. If the Knicks lost this game, I think this would have been referred to as A, the free throw game, and B, the game where Brunson missed that shot at the regulation. Not as like a criticism of Brunson, but like, oh my God, Brunson makes that shot. Yeah, it was right there. He makes that shot 9 times out of 10, and this was the 10th time. But the free throws, now it was, so the hack and Mitch, again, I don't know what there is to say about that other than like, I just don't know what there's to say about that. I mean, is Missoula going to go back to it? Is Mitch going to hit his free throws? If he doesn't, what happens? We just kind of have to wait and see. Some other ones. So because he was 3 for 10. Cameron Payne, I don't think it was a coincidence.
No.
I mean, missed both of his free throws. Those were bad 3 minutes. Did not see the court in the second half. Played a 7-man rotation in the second half in overtime. Brunson missed only 1, 6 of 7. That's fine. OG missed 1, 3 of 4. Okay. Josh Hart, 3 of 6. Really, it's the Hart 3 of 6. That's and the campaign 0 of 2. Those are the 2 ones. So I'm not.
It's hard to kill them on that. Right?
I'm not losing my mind.
And they ended up going 9 of 12 in the overtime in fourth quarter. Or the second half overall, 9 of 12 from the free throw line. So they made their fair share in the second half from the free throw line. But yeah, that it absolutely would have been the narrative if they ended up losing that game, along with, as you said, the Brunson missed shot. And if you have any PTSD, I'm sure you do, about Knicks playoff losses in the past, a lot of those losses revolve around missed free throws. So believe me, as I was watching that, I had a lot of those memories popping up in my head.
I don't know what you're talking about.
In the recesses somewhere.
Yeah, I don't even. What's a recess? Okay, 10 more minutes, and then I'm gonna get you out of here. We're gonna get the super chats. So in this game, Jalen Brunson the two massive, just absolutely massive threes over Al Horford. Before we expand the conversation to how are the Knicks going to generate, after our segment and then the super chats, then I'm going to let you go. Andrew's listening and reminding me. We got to talk about how the Knicks are going to generate offense because they basically tonight. Tell me if I missed something. Jalen Brunson drawing a switch and taking a shot over a mismatch. Karl-Anthony Towns going at alleged mismatches and semi-transition. Obviously moving without the ball, trying to get some stuff there, but like the Celtics are so good and so disciplined, like it's rare that they're really going to give you a lot of stuff there. What did I miss?
Yeah, I do want to go back and just rewatch the 11 Anunoby threes because, they're obviously a lot of those standstill catch and shoot. How did those come about?
It's a great call.
I'm sure most of those were in early offense scenarios, but
I give him credit for that because the Knicks don't always take advantage of the opportunities to get early offense when it's behind the arc.
When it's behind the arc, especially. And he did pass up a few late, but for the most part, I thought he was, obviously quick with the trigger to get up 11. The Celtics do a good job of not overreacting to anything inside the arc, and that's whether that's a Towns post up or a Brunson drive. And because the Celtics are really good at trying to keep Brunson out of the nail. So when Brunson can drive through the nail of the defense, like right through the middle, that's when he's at his best. But the Celtics have a very specific no middle scheme. And usually against most defensive players, Brunson's stronger, can go through the hip and still get to where he wants to go. But against Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, even Pritchard, who's a little bulldog defensively, he struggles getting to his spots where he can drive and kick, where he can get to his best efficient floater range. So it does make it tough for the Knicks to generate offense because you're not getting those advantages. So I think that is why Brunson's just started to figure out, like, listen, it may just have to be me taking pull-up threes to generate some offense. And he made them during the regular season against the Celtics. And you mentioned the two big ones in the fourth quarter against Al Horford on the right wing. They were obviously massive, and he's going to have to lean into that, and it's not going to look pretty. It's not going to be, the most efficient offense, but I don't know on the first watch if there are other things that I can say that is translatable to an entire series. But I'm sure the Knicks are going to go back and say, yeah, we left some things on the table. There's some low hanging fruit we can do to get better offensively because this wasn't a perfect Knicks offense. So, I think both teams can look at this and say, yeah, there's still some meat on the bones for us as well.
This is the point I've been waiting to make. Mm-hmm. Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, 51 points on 49 shots. That is about as inefficient as you're going to get. And I understand that how those specific players came about their specific stat lines was very different. Mm-hmm. I mean, the biggest number within that is you just alluded to it. Jalen Brunson, 5 for 9 from behind the arc. It's arguably the most important number in the game, or the most important stat of the game, especially when you factor in those couple of threes over Horford. But this was not a great Brunson game, and I feel very comfortable saying that Brunson can play better. And
he should play better. Yeah.
On offense and can shoot better. 5 assists, 4 turnovers. We know Brunson could do better than that. Mikal Bridges. Look, Mikal Bridges is the hero tonight, and he should be the hero tonight. 50, they have him marked down as 51 minutes. You had it at 52, whatever it is. The man played a number that started with a 5. And he hit a big 3 down the stretch. It was a massive 3 in the moment. And he obviously made, up until this point, the biggest defensive play of the season. Maybe this was the game he needed to get out of the way. Maybe that final defensive play will give him the confidence, the comfort, the whatever he needs to get going in this series, because he had good looks and he just missed them. And then Karl-Anthony Towns. Need to call my cardiologist. Been talking for 36 minutes. Haven't really talked about Towns yet. Can it be worse?
Well, I hate to answer that truthfully. I'll say it won't be worse. I'll say it won't be worse. And
I gave you a fucking layup, dude, and you Brunson's the last play of the regulation. You couldn't just give me. You couldn't give me.
Oh, that was rough.
No, but listen, but that's I hate that it speaks volumes that you're sitting there and you're having this moment when I ask you that question.
Yeah. It's I don't know where to go with this one because you try to figure out what could be done in a team-wide scenario. What can you do to sort of free him and to
it's
generate
the play better button? Is it not the play? I'm sorry. Is it what else? I mean, the play better button has to be a part of the Towns conversation tonight, doesn't it?
Well, yes, that's number one. But I also feel like the things that he was doing against this team, like some of those drives with all the bodies they have loaded up ready for him, and the fact that he is 1 foot leaper, he doesn't have the 2 foot game. So if it's a drive, it's either going to be a make or a miss, and then if it's a miss, it's a lot of times a layup or a 3 on the other end. I think what the Knicks need to figure out is how do we create the cross match to get him, whether it's Porzingis or Cornette or Horford, in transition in a trail 3 situation. How do you supplement his game with those? I thought before the game that it was basically I was going to rely on Josh Hart to push that because he's the cross match partner. And if you can generate some early grab and goes if you're Josh Hart and push the pace, force the big, especially if it's Cornette diving for offensive rebounds, to then match up with Cat because Hart's already up the court. Then you can get some trail Cat 3s to just try to change up the pace because it felt like he was so, at least from my perspective, worn out, exhausted, tired of just the way he had to generate offense, that it's not in his DNA to do this time and time again. So how do you push him out of that? Well, I think you have to figure out a way to get those cross matches, which will happen if you can push the pace. And then outside that, I think you have to, and this is the big question, how much is he going to be utilized as a screener? They did some, and they just got the Horford switch, and that did generate some good offense because Brunson made those 3s. So he is still a valuable piece on that puzzle because they weren't sending help that way.
Yeah.
But it's still tough sledding for him against this particular team. It's been that way for most of the regular season. But the Knicks, I'm sure, could figure out other ways to get deeper post position, trail 3s, better, drives maybe with more floor spacing, maybe without Josh Hart in the game, something to get him some freedom, because it felt like a lot of times he's driving into 2-3 Celtics and it wasn't good, wasn't good possessions out of that.
You want to hear the most disingenuous stat of the game, because it is not, I don't think it's reflective of what we saw. The Knicks offensive rating with the starters plus Towns was 97.6. The Knicks offensive rating with the starters plus Mitchell Robinson was 160. Now, starters altogether played 22 minutes and 45 seconds. The starters with Mitch played 6 minutes and 33 seconds. They outscored Boston 24-11 in those 6 minutes and 33 seconds. That obviously their big run in the third quarter was part of that. They have to get Cat going. Here's another stat for this game. 1.
Yeah.
What's that number 1? It's the number of threes Cat took, and it was a desperation 3 at the end of a clock that he didn't even really, I don't think, want to put up. So 0 trail 3s. Get those. I thought he had some good looks that just miss. And I think once he started missing those good looks, I think it started to get in his head, and I think it compounded, and I think it led to what you saw at the beginning of the third quarter, which would have been a stretch of basketball if the Knicks lost this game that we would have been talking about probably for a long time. And tonight would have probably been a Leon Rose conversation if we're just keeping it a buck, and maybe it would be that a little bit. But listen, let me give Kat this. Cat came back in the game. One, like you talked about, he still helped generate, like, again, not easy offense, but like the easiest offense, with the best offense you're going to get down the stretch of this game with these two, you know, it was like Rocky and Apollo Creed in round 15. And number two, he did defend as down the stretch of this game. He defended. Was it great? No, but it was good enough. It was good enough. And again,
it was absolutely good enough. Yeah, I thought he again, that's like a theme of this. He kept with it.
He kept with it. He didn't let go of the rope.
No,
he looked like he was going to. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was in terms of like what it was asked of him. We talked about game one against Detroit. That was, it was an adjustment in terms of the aggression in that game, but this was a whole different beast that he had to sort of manage as a defender. Brunson too, like most of the Knicks had to play in a very unique style that they didn't have a lot of practice in doing this season. And, to be frank, part way through the third quarter, I'm thinking, man, I wish the Knicks had like practiced this a little bit to have some of, reps to lean back on, because, quickly on what the Celtics were doing in terms of how they were generating some offense, especially in that third quarter, second quarter as well. It was more the screening action. So they easily transitioned into a screen scenario where they were screening under the switch and then slipping out into space. It's a very clear way of screening when you're screening against a switch. Pritchard, who did this 3 times tonight, would screen his own man that is tasked with then switching onto whoever he's setting the screen for. And because Pritchard is bullying that player out of the way, the switch can never happen. So the Celtics do have counters, and they were utilizing them. If you're a Celtics fan, I would say, where did that stuff go in the fourth quarter? Because I feel like that all dried up.
Yeah.
And, maybe that's one of those like areas where if you look back on film, if you're a Celtics coach or you're Mazzulla and you're like, listen, guys, we were getting good stuff out of this. We were getting slips to the rim. We were getting drives because of the way we were screening. We went away from all of that.
But DJ,
in the fourth quarter.
What's the thank you, by the way, for your shout out on the Patreon pod. I have said for 2 years the Celtics have built the perfect basketball team for the modern era, at least.
Yeah.
The one thing I feel like Curly in City Slickers. The one thing, their lead initiator, the guy that starts the offense, is not a point guard. And neither is their second best offensive player. And I think there was, for years and years and years, there were a lot of theories that fundamental, that fly in the punch bowl was going to be the one thing that held them back. And they overcame it last year, obviously, based on sheer talent. And again, coming down the stretch of games, I referenced game one against the Indiana Pacers. I was worried about that as we were coming down the stretch of overtime. Like, were they going to have another one of those moments that Jaylen Brown gave them against Indiana? It didn't turn out to be the case tonight. It's not that they can't make big shots, but in terms of maintaining the composure when the team across from them is doing something against them that maybe they're not in love with having to face.
Yeah, it's a good point.
You get this stuff. So that's the only place I'm going to go with that. Okay, I saved this for last. Look, I understand that Josh Hart is not everybody's cup of tea. I get it.
He's my cup of tea.
Deej.
Big old glass.
We are the I don't want to compare us to the British East India Tea Company because they did some pretty vile shit, but like we are the Josh Hart East Coast Tea Company. Oh man. How do you not want this guy on your team? How do you not want this guy on the floor for your team in the biggest games and the biggest moments of the biggest games? Look, I get it. We have eyes. We have eyes, just like I know this may surprise people to find out. And I did have to check with some sources for this. Tom Thibodeau also has eyes. And I get when Josh Hart is on the floor, it allows defenses to do things that they would not be able to do if there was a shooter in that spot. And I would love, and I know I speak for you too, I would love nothing more than for the Knicks to get in a position where they have a player on their roster that brings as much to the table, that brings so much to the table, where that becomes a legitimate conversation about, hey, we just need the spacing right now. Josh, we love you, but we just don't take any offense. This is what we need right now. We need to be able to generate a good look, and that's the priority here for this next stretch of however many possessions. This is not anything against Deuce McBride, who, by the way, had a great game. Really important
3-3.
Game. We haven't mentioned his name. We've been talking for almost 50 minutes. Bad job by us. 3 threes, 4 of 8 overall, 11 points, 19 big minutes. Big time game from Deuce McBride. And when we're on the topic of bench guys, big game from Mitchell Robinson, who had the best plus minus by far in this game for the Knicks. Mitchell Robinson. Some of that was a little bit of what was going on around him, but he played a big role in that too. So big shout out to Mitch. Big shout out to Deuce. The two guys who a lot of people have said this year, maybe they should be starting over Josh Hart, or at least playing significant minutes over Josh Hart. I get it. This is not a simple conversation. You cannot divorce what defenses are able to do to your offense from the things that Josh Hart does well. I just can't watch a game like tonight and be like, no, it's not worth the trade-off, because I have faith that when it comes down to it, that freaking guy is going to make enough plays to make it worth it to have him out on the court. And I just I don't know how much we need to see again with this roster, the way this roster is, to make that kind of statement.
Yeah. And listen, playoff riser is a very in vogue phrase nowadays. I don't know if the Knicks, Jalen Brunson, obviously poster child for that in a lot of ways, especially down the stretch of these games. But Josh Hart is a playoff riser because the way he defends is amplified in the playoffs because his ability to armbar, and his strength is something that he can go to in the postseason when there is more latitude granted to a defender. And then how many times when we're watching playback did you say, or someone say, who made that play? And then someone said, Josh Hart did.
Oh, Josh Hart.
And it was a loose ball. It was an offensive rebound. He was only credited with 2 steals, but how many deflections and just chaos did he cause on the defensive end?
5 offensive rebounds, by the way.
5 offensive rebounds. And even more important than that, he made all his layups, which was something as we were winding down the season, we started to look at where this team was sort of losing its edge. And one of the areas was Josh Hart as a finisher. Just wasn't as good as the season was wrapping up. We were concerned about the knee. We were concerned about him just not having the same burst, but he made every one today. 4-4 in the restricted area in a game like this is massive, because getting layups against any good defense is worth its weight in gold. And I know it was only for a couple of possessions, but we're going to see likely Porzingis in the series. The fact that Hart was attacking him with the ball, dribbling and driving, I thought was a priority for him.
Absolutely.
He got the one layup out of that. I thought just the attention to detail and doing that, not just being the shooter and the DHO hub, but attack the space. And Porzingis isn't moving well. He hasn't moved well in a long time. And that was one of the reasons why I thought the Celtics team was coming into this series at less than peak performance. Porzingis was a big part of that. And just the fact that he hasn't been moving well. And Hart, I think, and the Knicks know that. And they're going to try to eat up that space and try to make something happen with the ball in his hands as a driver, not just a shooter and a DHO hub. So I thought the attention there was really nice. And I think in game 2, if Porzingis plays, that'll be something he's going to go to again.
I felt watching the game just the same way that I felt for most of the season, which is that Josh Hart makes the Knicks' life more difficult on offense. I don't think me and you were probably the biggest Josh Hart fans out there. I don't think we would disagree with that general statement. On balance, Josh Hart makes their life more difficult, given their personnel and given the things that they are able to do and would be able to do if they had a true 5-out look. I still don't feel like they've fully tapped into the ways to overcome that. And again, there's a conversation of, well, why should they have to overcome that? And then you get back and forth. But I thought a lot of times tonight they did a pretty good job of it. And I thought they did, they maximized their opportunities even when he was out there and when it allowed the Celtics to load up and so on and so forth. So yeah. Last thing, Tibbs.
He was in his bag tonight. My boy was in his bag.
You're the X's and O's guy.
Listen,
I'm just a silly guy in a hat.
I mean, we've talked about a lot of the things, right? He had this template that, again, I'm sorry to beat a dead horse, but Orlando sort of showed you this is a way. He, I'm sure, took some notes, took some inspiration from that, completely overhaul his entire defensive scheme between series. And I thought stuck to the plan, didn't deviate. I thought that was a critical aspect to this. And listen, this team was entirely and wholly prepared for this game. And
hold on.
Yeah.
Can we just,
sure.
Because I said something in the last series when I was talking about Tibbs and the pluses and minuses of Tibbs. And I said, he has his teams better prepared than, pretty much anyone in the league. And somebody called me out on it. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. And I think maybe I even went back on it or something, but I was like, I think it was game 5. No, was it game 5? Maybe it was game 5. One of the games. I'm like, they didn't come out as well prepared. I still think that there is an inherent advantage there when you have him as your coach in terms of to start a series, game 1, this is how we're going to go into it. And I think, again, this was the latest piece of evidence for that. Well,
yeah. I mean, listen, I know they lost the Miami game 1 a couple of years ago, but the Knicks have done well in game 1s of series under Tibbs. So if you look at that, I mean, the record is really good. So you think of how this team comes out to start a series. He usually has the right buttons pushed to start. Now, where the adjustments come after the Celtics make their adjustments, time will tell there. But in terms of how this series start, I don't think you could have drawn up a better defensive scheme to try to make life as difficult as possible for the Celtics team. So I think that's where I think Tibbs gets a lot of the credit. And then, offensively, the fact that he got his team, moving in transition into semi-transition was big. And then just able to get Brunson some daylight as because it did become very Brunson-centric there in the fourth quarter in overtime. Yeah. And the results were mixed. But the results are always going to be mixed against great defenses when things get tough in the playoffs. So he did enough to sort of generate some semi-decent looks. They attacked Horford in space, credit there. But I thought overall, Tibbs did a really nice job in this game and should deserve a lot of credit for that.
Where's your head at for the rest of the series?
Well, I mean, I think game 2 is going to be fascinating because emotionally and physically, where are the Knicks going to be for that one?
Can I just?
Yeah.
If they look, I'm gonna eat these words. I know I'm gonna eat these words. If the Celtics go out game 2 and they win by 20 some points, I want to say right now, could we all promise collectively
to take chill the F out? Yeah.
What?
To chill the F out.
To chill the F out.
Yeah.
Because that is what typically happens in these sorts of, not always. I in fact, Boston, Miami, that was 2 years ago when the Celtics almost came back from 3-0 down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Miami came in, took care of business game 1, and then they obviously weren't happy, and they took care of game 2 too. But I am sitting here right now. I'm gonna just you did what you came to do. That is what I'm gonna sit here and say.
Yeah, and listen, the odds now that we're gonna get a long series are highly likely right now, I think. And I think you can sign up for that, and we'll enjoy the ride as much as we can.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all, and that's all we can ask for. All right. We got someone who wants to join us up here on the stage.
Sweet Caroline. Ba, ba, ba. What's up, Boston? By the way, fellas, if we can redo a segment from the past, I officially have a new candidate for the best game 1 win of the Tom Thibodeau era.
Oh, this is it.
We already did the calculations. This wins, folks.
Yeah.
This wins. Brooklyn, you should have asked for more. Bill Simmons, I know you're not laughing tonight. Ryan Russillo, Kevin O'Connor, the entire Boston Mafia. You're not laughing tonight. Tell me a little something, KD. Don't you regret not coming to the
Okay.
All right, folks. It is time to bet and sweat. Our sponsored segment from our good friends over at Fanatics Sportsbook. It's a prosperous night, fellas. I got to say, it's a prosperous night across the board.
You're damn right.
Because, let's see, Mensa took Knicks plus 10.5. That covered.
Amen.
Mikal Bridges, 2+ threes. I believe this covered.
It did. Yeah, he made 2 threes. Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go to Jalen Brunson, because I'm actually not sure what he finished with. Did he finish with 34 points plus assists?
He finished with exactly 34 points plus.
I love it. That's awesome.
It's
That's
not
great.
just the New York Knicks who defied the odds. All of your regular season stats: 0-4 against the Celtics, 0-10 against the top 3 teams, the Clippers who are up out of here, the Lakers who are up out of here, all those teams that don't matter. We're 1-0 in the playoffs against the top 3 teams. Okay. Knicks in 5, baby. We're back. Knicks in 5.
Can I give myself a small pat on the back?
Sure.
I went and found Brunson 30 plus points and Hart 12 plus points on Fanatics Sportsbook at plus 325.
Oh.
And I lost it by a freaking point.
Oh, John, we almost went to Sizzler. Damn.
Yeah, I almost went to Sizzler.
Oh, wow.
Anyway,
apologies to the tough luck of betting and sweating, unfortunately.
Anyway,
shout out to our good friends at Fanatics Sportsbook. Earn up to 10% back on your bets, win or lose. Use fan cash on team gear like my hat or John's hat or the stuff behind DJ as well. Maybe DJ used his fan cash and we'll show his stuff off later on in the week when we do a little X's and O's. Stay tuned for that as well. Or you could use it on bonus bets like the one or the hat that John's talking about. Look, John's showing us on screen right now. Or profit boots in the Fanatics Sportsbook app. Stay tuned for exclusive offers all playoffs long. Okay, DJ, I'll let you go. Well, John, I'll let you go. I'll let you guys have the last word, and then I got to do one more thing. Go ahead. I got to catch my breath. I've been in an Uber for 45 minutes.
John, your mic's off, but I'm sure you just threw it to me.
Sorry.
Listen, no, you're good. That was a fun one. Listen, these playoff wins, I always try to soak them in when they happen and revel in the joy of them, because this team has historically never done it easy, and so when they get them, it's usually easy. In this. I know.
The fuck is that?
Even that word? I know. Oh God, it's so true. But just enjoy it. This was awesome. And this team, man, I love them. I didn't think I would. Believe me, I didn't think I would, and I love them. And this was fun.
DJM, I want to really convey this to you. I'm so happy you were here with me for this.
We lost John as he was complimenting me.
What's that?
Oh, there you go. You're back now.
John, repeat what you just said.
I said I just wanted to thank DJ for being here with me. It meant so much.
Oh, well,
to have
listen.
Here.
Likewise, we've been watching this team for a long time, same amount of time, and this one is going to be up there with some of my favorite wins. The job is not done.
Oh.
I feel really good about where this team is right now. I'm not going to get crazy and start making wacko predictions, but they may have found some things, and let's just see where it goes.
There we go.
DJ, quick question before you go. Quick question before you go. Do you like apples? Well, the Knicks won game 1. How do you like them apples? DJ Zullo, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So, John, before we get a copyright infringement. So, Fanatics, our good friends of Fanatics, actually want to give us the first super chat tonight. I know this is a rare thing, but they want to do the first super chat tonight. So, the first super chat from Fanatics, instead of giving you the $100 in fan cash, we're giving it to Knicks Film School listeners. We have a quick announcement for everybody. Tag KFS and Fanatics Sportsbook on Twitter with your Game 2 bet slip for a chance to win $100. So we have officially a sweepstakes to announce, courtesy of our friends at Fanatics Sportsbook. Let me get the thing on the screen. So, Fanatics Sportsbook. All you have to do is tag Knicks Film School and Fanatics Sportsbook, Fanatics Book using the hashtag sweepstakes with your game sportsbook game 2 betting slip. So whatever it is, it could be as simple as Josh Hart over rebounds. It could be one of our betting and sweating picks. It could be one of our betting and sweating parlays.
Literally,
you just have to post a screenshot
That's it.
Screenshot of your betting slip.
So I download, if I haven't downloaded already, which I obviously have because I've been kind of really enjoying this. The Fanatics app right here, which is pulling up on my phone, needs my Face ID. There it is. And I make my bet for game 2. So I am going to go. Can I? They probably don't have lines yet for game 2. That's unfortunate.
They don't. Not yet.
Wait, no, hold on.
Is it already up? Have they put the 6-pack up yet?
Wednesday at 7 p.m. That's game 2, right?
That's game 2.
Okay, great. So I am going to go ahead and I am going to do Jalen Brunson plus 30 or more points plus 150.
There you go.
And I'm going to do, look, I get 1.29% fan cash on this. I'm going to do a nice little $10 bet, nothing crazy. Oh, it's plus 150, so $10 gets to be $25 if I win. And I'm going to place bet. Placing your bet. This will only take a moment. Oh, look, and there it is. Okay, so I'm going to take a screenshot of that, and then I'm done.
Yep, and then John officially enters the contest. Now,
but I have to tag Knicks Film School.
You have to tweet this out and tag Knicks Film School and Fanatics Sportsbook. So Fanatics Book and use hashtag sweepstakes in your tweet. We will be giving this away, the winner of $100 in fan cash. What could you do with your fan cash? You could do what John just did and place a little bet on Brunson or the Knicks to win game 2. Or you could get the Brunson jersey that's behind me, which is only $80. You can get the hat that I'm wearing, which is only $15. John's hat, which is beautiful. There's a ton of memorabilia.
Brunson jersey here.
A Brunson jersey, whatever you'd like. You could use it on fan cash. We are giving away $100 in fan cash this Wednesday after the Knicks go up 2-0 over the Boston Celtics. I'll call my shot after we fully take control of this series, John, by stealing the first 2 in Not the Garden. That's what we call it, Not the Garden. TD Bank Arena. It's a waiting room.
Amazing.
Yeah. Knicks in 5, baby. We back. Okay.
We're so
Shout
back.
out America. Shout out to the New York Knicks. That was an incredible game. Shout out to John, shout out to DJ, and shout out one more time to the fine folks at Fanatics Sportsbook. Again, earn 10% on your bonus bets, win or lose. Use fan cash on Team Gear on Fanatics.com or bonus bets or profit boosts in the Fanatics Sportsbook app. Stay tuned for exclusive offers all playoff long. You must be 21 or older to play. If you have a gambling problem, you know what to do. Call 1-800-GAMBLER, and odds are subject to change. Okay, I have hijacked the post game long enough. There are hundreds of Knicks fans that probably want to talk to you about this thrilling victory. Yeah, so as Kevin says, 104 super chats. It's time for me to get out of here.
Jesus
John,
H. Christ.
I just want to give one more quick shout out. That's to the fine folks at T Squared Social and everybody that came to T Squared Social tonight, specifically a gentleman named Joe C., who's been a fan of ours since 2019 and walked in and said, Claudio, big fan. Knicks are going to win tonight. And I was like, sure, buddy. Here, I'll get you a drink. Sure, good. Sit down. Find a seat at the bar. And then he, throughout the game, because I'll be totally honest with you, I started looking at train times at halftime. Can I get home early before the game's over? We were talking about, are the Clippers going to fire Ty Lue? Like,
you missed it. Down 20?
Mm-hmm.
I said it on YouTube.
What?
Series is over.
The series? Oh, the Macri curse happened. The series is over. John,
it's undefeated.
I was talking
undefeated.
to
every time I say it
and like say it and mean it too. Like you thought the series was over at halftime.
I meant it.
I was talking to my buddies over at the Clips and Dip podcast, the Clippers podcast, and I'm like, are they going to fire Ty Lue? I think he'd be a great replacement for Tibbs. Like, that's as far as I got. Was like, because obviously they get swept, or that first half, they shot 5 of 23 from 3 and still had a 16-point lead. I was ready, and I want to shout out Joe C., who was like, Andrew, not only are you not going to catch your train, but they're going to be tied with 6 minutes left. And I was like, yeah, okay, buddy. Then they're tied with 4 minutes left. Then they're tied with 50 seconds left. Then they have the finger roll 2.0 where Brunson misses that layup. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really going to be like J.R. Smith not knowing what the score was.
The finger roll 2.0. Oh,
John, I was like, this is exactly how this ends. Like, it's that devastating. I mean, that was the Celtics go on like a 12-2 run in overtime.
So that was same round of the playoffs 30 years ago.
Yep.
Game 7 versus game 1.
Yep. It's more reminiscent for me of J.R. Smith forgetting the score. Like, you had to do everything perfect to even be close. No, not the finals, but in the sense of like mirror image of a game 1 where you could have stole it. And if you lose it, you're the lower seed having to try and win now 5 out of the next 6 games. Or I guess 5 out of 7 total. Point is, they got the job done. Mikal Bridges, all is forgiven for now. And the New York Knicks, at least for the next 2 days, have a commanding lead in their series against the Celtics.